Well, it's another day in the Canadian Rockies. Today we are at Abraham Lake, and we weren't really planning on coming here, but there was a big wildfire that kind of shut down the entire Jasper National Park. You can drive through it on the Icefields Parkway, but you can't stop at any of the attractions. So we shifted gears and got ourselves a hotel room pretty close to the lake, and I'm going to see if I can work some compositions by this lake today. So that is the plan, and I've kind of found my first one down here through these woods. I think this is where I found it, and I'm going to work on that now, and I'll show it to you soon. Well, I came prepared for this. I brought some shorts that are long pants that I can take the bottom half off and make shorts of them. And I'm wearing some sneakers that I'm going to throw away before we fly back home. I've got the camera in the water and myself in the water now. And I've switched to the 10-stop neutral density filter, and I'm making another photograph of the mountains in the background with slick water with these interesting trees in the foreground. Well, I'm just about up to my knees now in this water, and look at the mountains. They're starting to get some alpenglow on them as the sun is beginning to rise, and there's some beautiful clouds in the sky. So also, I forgot to mention it was 3 degrees Celsius this morning, or 5 or 2. Cold. But anyway, working these shots, and I think they may be pretty special. I can't wait for you to see them. Okay, this is the first shot of the morning. This is with the 14 to 35, all the way zoomed out to 35 millimeters. A 30-second shot using the 10-stop neutral density filter, ISO 100. I've got the aperture stopped down to f13. My focus point is on these two trees, but I wanted the background to be pretty close to in focus. And it's not perfectly sharp. If you look at the background, it's not perfectly sharp, but it's sharp enough. But the focal point is these two trees with the side light giving them some depth. And I just love the way this lake looked with a 30-second exposure, just slick as can be. Really like the way this turned out. I've come down the shoreline a little bit further now, and I'm set up here. This laid over tree almost made it where I couldn't get my composition right, because I wanted the peak of the mountain to be splitting those trees. Oh yeah, that's going to be nice. That's going to be pretty nice. This is fun. Also very cold. Here's my next shot. I wish I had had the camera a little bit further back from these two trees, but they are dramatically sharp in the foreground. Got the great slick water just like the last picture. This one's 30 millimeters instead of 35 like the last one, and I like it pretty good. Otherwise the settings are the same: f13, 30 seconds, 10-stop neutral density filter, and ISO 100. I went back up to the car, which is just right there. You may be able to see it behind me, and switched lenses because I wanted to get a shot of just that main mountain, the prettier, or the prettiest, I should say, of these mountains. And in order to do that, I needed more than 35 millimeters. So I went and switched lenses and put the 24 to 105 on, and I've made a shot with no foreground trees. I came to this lake to do foreground tree shots, but that mountain is pretty enough to do a shot of it by itself, especially with this beautiful sunrise light on it. Now I've switched to the 24 to 105. This is 56 millimeters, no trees in the foreground. I thought I would just take a shot of the beautiful mountains with some clouds. This is 30 seconds f11, ISO 100, 56 millimeters with the 10-stop neutral density filter. I don't know the name of this mountain, but it's really beautiful, and I made a few more pictures of it that you'll see in this video. I made a shot of this little, used to be a bunch of trees, and it's been cut off, and there's bright side light on it, and I made a shot of it somewhere between 24 and 35 millimeters, and it kind of makes those little trees look huge and tall, and the mountains in the background look small. And of course I've long exposured that, and it might be pretty cool. I still have the 24-105 on for this shot. It's 31 millimeters f/16, 30 seconds, 10 stop neutral density filter, and ISO 100. I thought these trees that were cut down looked really beautiful in the foreground, and I've got the camera down low enough to where the trees, these little cut off trees, appear to be taller than the mountains in the background. This is a little spider web right here, and I debated taking it out, but in the end I decided to leave it in. And these are lit from the side as well. You can see it's brighter on the left side and darker on the right side, and that gives it more depth. And this tree, the laid over tree, goes out of the frame, and I thought that might bother me, but it really doesn't. And I like the sharpness of everything on these trees and the pretty close to sharpness at f/16 of the background. Just kind of an unusual picture, but I like it. I worked a lot of compositions of these trees, all long exposures, and then I looked over towards the mountain and I said, man, that's pretty. And I had to, oh wow, in my backlit, I had to get one more shot, long exposure of the mountain, now that it's completely bathed in light, or nearly completely. This is a 56 millimeter shot at 15 seconds f/11 with the 10 stop of that same mountain. Now it's a little bit later in the morning and the light on it is different, and I thought it was worth another shot. We got in the car and moved a little ways up the lake, and I was looking for some more aspen trees in the water, and I haven't been able to find any yet, but I did find this little stand of aspen trees, much larger than the ones that I was photographing there at the water. And I thought they were really beautiful, and they have side light on them, which gives them depth. So I set up the 24-105 with no filters this time and made a shot somewhere between 70 and 85 millimeters using the R6 Mark II, as I have been all morning. And I think the shot's really beautiful. We don't have aspen trees back home in Tennessee, so anytime I see some that look really pretty, I try to get a shot. Still using the 24-105 in a new location now. This is 77 millimeters, no filters, 1/10 of a second, f/11, and ISO 100. These aspen trees are definitely side lit, and they're almost blown out in a couple of spots on the light from the side, but I like the way this shot turned out. We stopped quickly on the road because I love the way the mountains look right here. Same mountain that I was photographing earlier, but much closer to it. Stopped right here in the road, crouched down, and got a shot. Thought it turned out pretty cool. Here's another shot of that same mountain, but this time I'm standing, or actually crouching, in the middle of the road. I made sure there was no traffic coming. This is 65 millimeters with the 24-105 handheld f/8 and 1/125th of a second. I thought the lines in the road and the leading lines of the road with the curve and then the straightaway in the distance, I thought that turned out really nice, and I like the trees lining the road as well. We stayed at the David Thompson Resort last night, which is very near Abraham Lake. And while we were here, we noticed some nesting barn swallows, and we came back after shooting this morning to eat breakfast, and they had fledged, and they're right on the restaurant sign. And I put the 100 to 500 on and made a few pictures of the freshly fledged barn swallows. Now I've got the 100 to 500 on, and I'm making photographs of these young swallows here on the restaurant sign. This is 1/500th at 500 millimeters, f/7.1 and 3200 ISO. And it's difficult to get all of their eyes sharp because they're not all on the same plane. This one's sharp, this was the focus point, and this one's pretty close to sharp. This one and this one are a little out of focus. This next one, I stopped it down to f/13 to try to get all of their eyes sharp, and it's definitely closer. They're all sharp except this one. This one's a little bit off, but it's definitely better at f/13. Here's one at f/10, and really the only ones that are sharp in this one is this eye and this eye over here. The other two are not quite as sharp. Well, breakfast was delicious, and I enjoyed photographing those barn swallows. And now we've come to another location, and I found these aspen trees right here that I thought were beautiful. and made a couple of shots of them. I'm not sure if these are going to be all that great though. We'll see. Now we're at a different location there at Abraham Lake. This is with the 24-105. It's 37 millimeters. Got this on a tripod. The trees are backlit instead of side lit, and I thought the shadows looked cool. And these trees are much larger than the other ones I was photographing. This is 1/100th of a second, f5.6, and ISO 100. I used f5.6 instead of stopping it down because I thought having a little bit wider aperture would give the photo some more depth, and I think that did work out. Really the only trees that are in focus is this first one and some of this second row, but these back ones and all this background is out of focus, and I think that gave the photo some depth. Still out here searching for compositions at Abraham Lake, and I found one. I've got these 4 trees, and there's some kind of golden grasses at the base of them, and then the lake in the background of that, and the mountains, and some pretty tasty clouds in the background of that. And I've got the 10 stop on, and I'm making some long exposures of that. I've chosen the 24-105 for the lens that I carried with me away from the car, and it's a good choice because I'm shooting between 70 and 85 millimeters for these shots. Now I'm back to f10, 50 millimeters, a 5-second shot with the 10-stop neutral density filter of these trees. These are not in the water, but some of the ones later in the video will be in the water again. And this is looking in the other direction on the lake. I really like the clouds in this, and I don't even mind that the grass is blowing in the wind in the 5-second exposure. I'm up to my knees now in this frigid cold water. It's actually starting to touch my pants a little bit. And I've got another group of trees that I'm working on right here. This is a 13-second shot with the 10-stop neutral density filter at f16. This is 56 millimeters and ISO 100, and I think I'm starting to get back into the water for this shot. 13 seconds gets the water pretty slick, almost as slick as a 30-second shot. All right, now I'm back in a bunch of aspens in water. A little bit of grass in the water, which I don't like, but I'm shooting against the sun. The sun is right up there, so they're kind of back and side lit, but there's also a hill right over there, so in some ways they're not lit at all. But I'm making some 30-second shots of this group, and these are not so white in color. They're kind of a tan instead of the white that you normally see on an aspen. Of course, I don't know much about aspens, so this may be normal as well. I think I finally found a composition in this little forest that I like, and man, am I deep. My pants are absolutely in the water now, but I'm shooting these 1, 2, 3 close trees, 2 trees way further back, and then 4, 5, 6 close trees. So 6 close trees and 2 trees further back. The water does have a little bit of color to it now, which is nice. There's some golden color in the background. This one's going to be pretty good, I think. And I'm shooting it f8, 20 seconds, ISO 100 with a 10-stop neutral density filter. Let's take a look at this one that I froze my knees to my toes off for. Love the way this one turned out. The colors in this are really something. This is 50 millimeters f8, 20 seconds with the 10-stop neutral density filter, and the blue-green color of this water with kind of the golden color in the background and the pure reflection going on. The water wasn't completely smooth, but the long exposure smoothed it out enough to make some pretty nice reflections, and I really love the way this one turned out. A shot like this is why we ended up going to Abraham Lake. Okay, well, I'm sure Heather is starting to worry about me because I've been away. She waits in the car while I do this craziness. So I'm going to head back to the car and check in with her. But it's pretty fun walking around in a nearly freezing cold Abraham Lake in the middle of September in Canada. Well, we left Abraham Lake And as we were driving down Highway 53, I found a mountain that looked kind of like the back of a triceratops, and I stopped and made a photograph of that. This is the mountain that I thought looked like a dinosaur. At the time I said triceratops, but I remembered the name wrong. It's a stegosaurus that has kind of this look to its back. And I said, hey, I got to get a shot of that. This is with the 24-105 33 millimeters f8 handheld 1/320th of a second. And then we re-entered Banff, and as we were driving along, I saw this mountain right here that I thought was absolutely amazing, so I had to stop and get a few shots of it, still using the 24-105 for these shots. The lens is turning out to be really good on this trip, and of course the 14-35 as well. Really all three of the lenses that I brought, the 100-500, making out the trio. Gives me 14 millimeters all the way to 500, so that's a lot. Really love the way this one turned out. This is 56 millimeters. It's a multi-shot handheld panorama, 1/320th of a second, f7.1 with the 24-105 and ISO 100. And by this time the clouds had gotten kind of ominous looking, and the panorama stitched together really well. And I love the snow on this mountain, and it just, the whole thing, everything about this shot is really pretty cool. And because it's a panorama, you can go 100% on a 4K monitor, and you get pretty good detail. This is my last photograph for this video, but please stay tuned to the rest of the series, because next we go to Moraine Lake Lodge, and it's going to be really cool out there at that beautiful location. If you like this video, take a moment, hit thumbs up. That helps me out a lot. If you want to see some more, subscribe and hit the bell. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.